The observation deck of the Celestial Envoy offered a panoramic view of the human fleet. Pitiful, really. Admiral Vraxis of the Kdari Dominion curled his lip in amusement as he studied the crude vessels drifting near Jupiter's orbit. Their hulls were blocky, their propulsion systems belched radioactive waste, and their weapons, if one can even call them that, were laughably primitive. They still use projectiles, he muttered, his voice a low hum of disdain. His second-in-command, Subcommander Thales, flicked a slender finger toward the holographic display, zooming in on the largest human ship. Pathetic, she agreed. Their entire navy wouldn't last 10 seconds against a single Kdari frigate. The Kdari had encountered lesser species before, races that clung to their homeworlds like insects, too slow to grasp the vastness of the cosmos. But humans were different, not because they were impressive, but because they were annoyingly persistent. They had spread across their solar system like mold, cobbling together tin cans they called warships and daring to demand a seat at the galactic Concord. Vraxis had argued against inviting them to the summit. Now, watching their so-called flagship struggle to maintain formation, he regretted nothing. A chime sounded, and the hologram shifted to display High Speaker Orlon, his silver-scale face shimmering with amusement. "Admiral," Orlon said, his voice dripping with mock solemnity, "the humans have submitted another request for a technology exchange. They claimed their innovations could benefit the Concord." A ripple of laughter echoed through the Celestial Envoy's command deck. Vraxis allowed himself a smirk. "Tell them we'll consider it," he said, right after they explained how their ships haven't disintegrated from sheer embarrassment. Thales leaned in, her voice low. "Their ambassador is waiting on the comms again." "Should I?" "Pull him through," Vraxis sighed. "Let's hear what excuses they've cooked up this time." The hologram resolved into the image of Admiral Elias Carter, his weathered face set in a grim line. Unlike the Kdari, who moved with effortless grace, Carter looked like he carried the weight of his entire species on his shoulders. "Admiral Vraxis," he began, his tone carefully neutral, "we've reviewed your assessment of our fleet, but I assure you, humanity's capabilities are—" "A joke," Vraxis interrupted. "Yes, we've noticed." Carter's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise to the bait. "We're asking for a chance to prove ourselves. A joint exercise. One of our ships against one of yours." Silence. Then Thales snorted. "You can't be serious." Vraxis studied Carter. The human wasn't bluffing. There was something in his eyes, not desperation, but certainty. It was almost fascinating. "Why waste our time?" Vraxis asked. "Because if we lose," Carter said evenly, "we'll withdraw our petition to join the Concord. Permanently." A gamble. A stupid one. Vraxis exchanged glances with Thales. The Kdari had nothing to lose, and the humans would finally be put in their place. "Very well," he said, "but we choose the ship." Carter nodded. "Agreed." The transmission ended, and Thales immediately pulled up the human fleet manifest. "Their strongest vessel is the UNS Dreadnought," she said. "A glorified cannon with engines. It's slow, unshielded, and—" "Perfect," Vraxis interrupted. "Send the Shadow Blade. Let's make this humiliating." The Shadow Blade was a Kdari hunter-killer, a ship designed to dismantle enemies before they even knew they were under attack. Its commander, Captain Silas, was arrogant even by Kdari standards. When orders reached him, he responded with a single word, entertaining. The stage was set. The humans would learn their place. And yet, as Vraxis watched the Dreadnought lumber onto the tactical display, he couldn't shake the nagging thought. Why were the humans so confident? Then the battle began, and within minutes, the laughter died. The Dreadnought didn't dodge the Shadow Blade's opening salvo. It took the hit, and when the plasma fire cleared, the human ship was still there, its scorched hull gleaming like a predator's grin. Captain Silas's voice crackled over the comms, uncharacteristically tense. "Admiral, their armor. It's not metal. It's *." Then the Dreadnought returned fire, and the galaxy changed forever. The Shadow Blade S-plasma lances had struck true, or so Captain Silas had thought. The searing blue-white bolt should have vaporized the UNS Dreadnought S starboard flank. peeling open its hull like a rusted tin can. Instead, the human warship shuddered, its blackened armor glowing molten red for a single, impossible second before cooling back into a dull, pockmarked gray. No breach. No secondary explosions. Just silence. Silas's claws flexed against his command console. Again, he snapped. The shadow blade wheeled gracefully, its sleek form a blur against the void, and unleashed another volley. This time, the dreadnought didn't even flinch. The plasma splashed harmlessly across its surface, dissipating like rain on stone. On the celestial envoy, Admiral Vraxis watched the feed with growing unease. "What in the abyss is that armor made of?" he muttered. Talus's fingers danced across her display, pulling up spectral analysis. "It's not just metal," she said, her voice tight. "There's a composite layer, some kind of energy-absorbent matrix. Our weapons are being neutralized before they penetrate." Vraxis's crest flared in irritation. "Then get closer. Board them. Let's see how they fare against Kdari blades." But the dreadnought wasn't waiting. Deep inside the human ship, Admiral Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the holographic tactical display. Around him, officers worked in grim silence, their faces lit by the dull glow of screens. "They're moving to engage at close range," Lieutenant Vega reported. "Standard Kdari boarding tactics." Carter allowed himself a thin smile. "Then let's remind them why we don't play by their rules." A single command flickered across the dreadnought S systems. Outside, the ship's hull rippled. Captain Silas saw it first, a series of hexagonal panels sliding aside along the dreadnought S spine, revealing rows of recessed ports. Evasive, he began, but it was too late. The human ship fired. Not plasma, not lasers. Railguns, hypersonic slugs, each the size of a ground car, erupted from the ports in a staggered salvo. The shadow blade twisted, its inertial dampener screaming as it veered aside, but the projectiles weren't aimed at the ship. They were aimed ahead of it. Silas realized the trap a heartbeat too late. The slugs detonated mid-flight, not with explosions, but with crackling electromagnetic pulses. The shadow blade S systems flickered. Its shields wavered, and then the dreadnought S secondaries locked on. A single, massive kinetic round, fired point-blank. The impact tore through the shadow blade, S weakened shields like paper, shearing off its starboard engine array in a shower of molten debris. Alarms wailed as the Kdari ship spun wildly, its artificial gravity failing. Silas clung to his console, hissing in fury. Return fire. All batteries. But the dreadnought was already turning, its engines flaring as it positioned itself between the shadow blade and the distant celestial envoy. On the Kdari flagship, Vraxis stared at the feed in disbelief. "They're hurting us," Talus whispered. The realization hit like a hammer. This wasn't just a test. This was a message, and humanity had just delivered it. Carter's voice crackled over the comms, calm and measured. "Admiral Vraxis, I believe we've proven our point." Vraxis's crest flattened against his skull. Around him, the command deck had gone deathly still. The shadow blade was crippled. The dreadnought hadn't even activated its primary weapons. And somewhere in the void, the rest of the galactic Concord was watching. "This isn't over," Vraxis growled. Carter's reply was soft, final. "No," he agreed. "It's just beginning." The silence on the celestial envoy S bridge was thicker than nebular dust. Admiral Vraxis stared at the tactical display, where the shadow blade spun helplessly, trailing debris like blood from a wounded beast. His claws left deep grooves in the armrests of his command throne. Every officer on deck held their breath, antennae twitching with nervous energy. They had never seen a Kdari warship humiliated, let alone by a species they dismissed as backward mammals. Sub-Commander Talus was the first to break the silence. "The dreadnought is hailing us again." Her voice carried an edge Vraxis had never heard before, something perilously close to doubt. "Put them through," Vraxis snarled. Admiral Carter's face appeared on the main viewer, his expression unreadable. Behind him, the dreadnought-S bridge hummed with quiet efficiency, human crew members moving with the precision of a predator circling its prey. "You've seen what one of our ships can do," Carter said. Stand down and we'll recover your crew. Vraxus's crest flared crimson with fury. You expect us to surrender? To you. Carter didn't blink. I expect you to be smart enough not to throw more lives away. A low growl rippled through the Kdari bridge. Talus's fingers hovered over the weapon's console, but Vraxus raised a claw. He wouldn't give the humans the satisfaction of another brawl. Not yet. Not when they'd so clearly planned for this. Recall the Shadow Blade, he ordered through gritted teeth, and signaled the fleet. We're withdrawing. Tilly stiffened. Asterisk withdrawing. Asterisk. Vraxus's eyes never left Carter's. For now, the transmission cut. Aboard the Dreadnought, Lieutenant Vega let out a slow breath. They're falling back, sir. Carter didn't relax. They'll be back. And next time, they won't hold back. Across the bridge, Chief Engineer Rostov chuckled darkly, wiping grease from his hands. Let 'em come. We've only shown 'em the basics. The Kdari War Council erupted the moment Vraxus stepped into the chamber. High Speaker Orlon's silver scales flashed under the harsh light as he slammed a fist onto the obsidian table. You let them live? After they crippled the Shadow Blade. Vraxus didn't flinch. We underestimated them. That ends today. He activated the holo display, pulling up the Dreadnought schematics, or what little their scans had managed to capture. Their armor isn't just resistant to our weapons. It adapts. And those railguns? They weren't firing to kill. They were firing to disrupt. Taylor stepped forward, her voice cold. This wasn't a demonstration. It was a psychological strike. They wanted us to fear them. Orlon's nostrils flared. Then we erased that fear with annihilation. Dispatched the Oblivion's maw. A ripple of unease passed through the council. The maw wasn't just a warship. It was a planet killer, a relic from the Purge Wars. Vraxus hesitated. If we deploy that, the Concord will see it as what we are, Orlon interrupted. The dominant species of this galaxy. He leaned in, his breath hot with menace. Unless you'd rather let the humans keep laughing at us. Vraxus looked at the schematics again, at the crude, blocky silhouette of the Dreadnought. Then he made his decision. Prepare the maw, he said softly, and send a message to the human colonies. Talys inclined her head. What shall it say? Vraxus bared his teeth. Asterisk run, asterisk. 3 light years away, the Dreadnought's long-range sensors pinged. Carter looked at the alert and went very still. Vega frowned. Admiral? Carter turned to the crew, his face grim. Sound general quarters, he said. They've just declared war. The alert klaxons aboard the Dreadnought wailed like a wounded beast, their shrill cry cutting through the metallic hum of the ship's engines. Admiral Carter's fingers tightened around the edges of the tactical display as a holographic projection flickered to life, revealing the nightmare unfolding at the edge of the system. The Oblivion's maw had arrived. It wasn't just a ship, it was a monstrosity. A jagged leviathan of blackened alloy and pulsating energy cores, its silhouette blotting out the stars as it emerged from warp. Scans painted a horrifying picture. Spinal-mounted plasma lances capable of glassing continents, gravity wells designed to drag entire fleets into crushing singularities, and a hull thicker than most asteroids. Lieutenant Vega's voice was steady, but her knuckles were white around her console. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the maw. Audio only. Carter nodded once. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was like grinding stone. Asterisk human vessel. You have 1 minute to surrender your crew for execution. Refuse, and we will reduce your homeworld to molten slag. Asterisk. Silence. Then Chief Engineer Rostov spat on the deck. Cheerful bunch, ain't they? Carter didn't smile. Vega, open a channel to Earth. The screen resolved into the face of General Odessa, her dark eyes sharp with urgency. Carter, we've seen it. The maw just went live in every system. They're broadcasting this. They want terror, Carter said, so we give them something else. Odessa understood instantly. You're not running. No, Carter turned to his crew. We hold here. Aboard the Celestial Envoy, Vraxus watched the Dreadnought's defiance with a mix of fury and reluctant admiration. The human ship hadn't fled. It hadn't even powered up its main engines. It had simply turned to face the Maw. Talus's claws tapped restlessly against her console. They're not even trying to escape. Vraxis said nothing. He knew what Carter was doing. This wasn't just a stand. It was a statement. And it was working. Across the fleet, Kdari crews murmured. They had expected cowering. Begging. Not this cold, silent defiance. Orlon's voice crackled over the calm asterisk. Enough. Burn them out of the void. Asterisk. The Maw S-spinal cannons glowed white-hot. The Dreadnought shook as the first plasma volley struck. Alarm screamed. Bulkheads groaned. But when the fire cleared, the ship was still there, battered, scorched, but intact. Rostov grinned through the smoke. Armor held, you scaly bastards. Carter didn't celebrate. Return fire. Full salvo. The Dreadnought S railguns thundered. This time, the slugs weren't disruptors. They were tungsten-cored, hyper-accelerated spears, each one aimed with surgical precision at the Maw S exposed power conduits. The first volley punched through the outer plating. The second struck deeper. And the third hit something critical. The Oblivion's Maw shuddered like a gutted beast. On the bridge of the Celestial Envoy, Vraxis watched in disbelief as the mighty planet killer listed a port, its core reactors flaring unstable. Talus's voice was barely a whisper. They're winning. No, not winning. Redefining the game. Carter's voice cut through the chaos, calm as a surgeon's blade. One more shot. The Dreadnought S railguns charged. The Maw S shields faltered. And then, silence. The Kdari ship hung dead in space, its systems dark. Orlon's transmission was a raw, furious snarl. Asterisk, this changes nothing. The Dominion will drown your worlds in blood. Asterisk. Carter leaned forward, his gaze locked on the screen. Then you'd better bring more than one ship. The channel cut. Across the galaxy, 100 species watched. And for the first time in history, the Kdari wondered if they'd finally met their match.